It's the Bulls Podcast, episode 36.
Hey, Chicago Bulls fans! It's time for your Bulls Podcast. Here are your hosts, Marcus Couch and Wyse Black.
Welcome to the Bulls Podcast, coming to you from bullspodcast.com. This is where we bring you the latest news, reviews, rants, rumors, and opinions on the players, coaches, and front office of our Chicago Bulls. My name is Marcus Couch, and with me is my co-host, Mr. Wyse Black.
You already know. Yo. What's up? What's good with all my Bull lifers out there, man? Yo, so with the NBA season coming to a close soon, yo, Marcus, I don't know what I'm going to do to get my basketball fix this summer, man. Like, seriously. But you know what? It don't even matter because we still going to be rocking and rolling. So let's get into it.
All right, we got a lot of topics this episode, including LA Clippers Patrick Beverley leaning towards Chicago, and yep, I had a little hand in that. Bulls sign Houston assistant coach Roy Rogers, the NBA draft workout and combine report with some second rounders that we've got our eye on, and free agent rumors from around the league, and hopefully some of those guys will come to the Bulls and some won't. We'll be right back after this quick timeout.
Bulls fans, remember to follow the show on social media at Bulls Podcast and at bullspodcast.com.
Okay, let's talk about Patrick Beverley to the Bulls. We've talked about our admiration for Pat Bev from the LA Clippers. Even on some of the earliest episodes of the Bulls Podcast, we utilized the ESPN trade machine and tried to find a way for Chicago native Patrick Beverley to stay on our radar and get on our roster. And here's a personal note. Last week, I noticed on Twitter there was a Chicago fan that made a little 20-second video asking Patrick Beverley to come home to Chicago and join the young core. Patrick responded by saying, "That's real," in terms of the emotion displayed by the fan. So as your Bulls Podcast co-host, I decided to take matters into my own hands and take it up to the next level myself. I tweeted this. Wyse, I loved your reaction to this too. I said, "Hey, Pat Bev, as the Bulls Podcast co-host and a Southern California resident, I will personally pay for and drive your moving truck from LA to Chicago if you sign with the Bulls. Hashtag signing bonus, come home." And I also included one of those GIF animation files of a classic moment in Chicago Bulls history where Scottie Pippen pointed to his Air Jordans and did the finger gesture to come here in reference to rejoining the entire Chicago Bulls phenomena once again.
Yes, sir.
So Pat Bev actually retweeted and responded to my prodding. He responded with 4 sets of bug eyes as if he was sort of shocked at the fans saying something like that. And I can tell you with gas almost $5 a gallon here in California, it would not be cheap for your Bulls co-host to gas up the moving truck and head 2,000 miles east to the Windy City.
Man.
But not only did he respond, Wyse, but hundreds of other Bulls fans responded to that actual retweet asking him to come to Chicago. There were a number of LA Clippers fans that were stunned at the revelation that Beverley might even be entertaining this. They were mad at him. Like, what are you doing? Chicago, what are you doing?
Come home, baby.
I know. And I even had some, B-list actor threaten me because I said that.
What?
He said he would try and hijack the truck and drive it back to Chicago. And I had to laugh at that one, and so did a lot of other people. I'm like, dude, you're an actor. Get real.
Hold on. You got a name drop.
I don't remember his name. I'll find it. He's a legit guy on TV, so I don't know who he is. Okay, so then with news of the Bulls signing Houston Rockets assistant Roy Rogers, Patrick again tweeted out a set of bug eyes, and he said, "Coach Roy signs with the Bulls. I see you, coach," in reference to his old assistant coach in Houston that he played for before. So he's currently in Chicago right now as of the time of this recording. His agent, Kevin Bradbury, also lives in Chicago. So if these aren't signs that Pat Bev wants to be in a Bulls uniform, I just don't know what it is. So we might find him in a uniform sooner than we think, and I might have to get my driving snacks ready for this moving truck thing. I sincerely doubt a guy that makes $5 million a year would actually entrust me with all of his belongings, but you never know. Now, this does complicate things one bit, which is something that came out today in Game of Zones on Bleacher Report, and that is Kevin Durant might screw this whole thing up for us. If Durant bails on Golden State, say if they lose it to Toronto, and he decides to show up LeBron in his own city here in Los Angeles and join Patrick Beverley and the Clippers, this whole thing's out the window. But I don't know. So, Wyse, what was your take? I saw that you did it as part of your segment on your latest video about the whole tweet with Pat Bev thing. What was your reaction to it?
I mean, I'm ecstatic. I'm definitely ecstatic, man, because I would love to see Pat Bev in a Bulls uniform, and I'll say, I definitely think Pat Bev is willing to and maybe even wants to come to Chicago. I think he sees the cries and adoration from the fans all for him to play for the Bulls next season. And I believe the recent hiring of Roy Rogers, as you mentioned, one of his former coaches, who he obviously is fond of by looking at his tweet from the other day. So I think it all helps feed his desire to come to Chicago and play for the Bulls. But my only thing is the fact that it's not really up to him. And I only say this because we haven't heard anything about the Bulls being interested in him, really. We've heard rumors about them having eyes on Terry Rozier, Malcolm Brogdon, and even trading for the services of Lonzo Ball, who can't shoot a paper ball into a trash can.
Or your favorite CP3.
Right? Oh, my. Dude, don't even mention. Dude, don't mention that name again, please.
Okay. I stuck to initials for you.
But look, hey, that may not necessarily mean anything, though. Meaning them not necessarily, talking about or having Pat Bev be rumored to be on their radar list. But I just wish it were the case. I wish he was at the forefront of their minds, because I don't know. I think he's our top prospect. Because I don't want us to sign Terry Rozier to a long-term contract, especially seeing that Markkanen's contract year is coming up in just a couple seasons. And I also don't think we'd be able to pull Brogdon away from the Bucks without a big fight. And actually, I kind of question his ability to be a solid distributing point guard too, seeing that, he's mainly played the two position for most of his career. So while I wouldn't necessarily mind us grabbing Brogdon if we could, I just don't know if it would be worth it to pay him north of $17 million per when he may not gel with the team as a true point guard, which is actually what I feel like we need with all of the scoring threats we have. But in the case of bringing in Pat Bev, I don't think that we have to give up much money, maybe between $5 to $6 million per, hopefully. And although he's not a great orchestrator either, I don't think we need that to be his role because of the other things he brings. And if we could lock him up for a few years, I think he'd be the perfect leader and mentor for whatever point guard we would find for the future.
I agree. I'd like to see him here. I don't know what role he would play right off, and we'll talk about some of the scenarios that Chris Dunn may or may not be in a Bulls uniform.
He instantly start. I think they give him. Yeah, I really think they give him the start over Chris Dunn and have Chris Dunn coming off the bench.
I'll be honest. I don't think we're going to have Dunn by the time the season starts. I think we're going to trade him. And we'll talk about that later on here. I got a little segment coming up about Chris Dunn. All right, let's switch topics here. We're going to talk about the Bulls signing Houston assistant coach Roy Rogers. They've made some obvious coaching staff changes with some guys that they hired to be Jim Boylan's assistant over the next 3 years. So they just picked up Roy Rogers, and he's on a 3-year contract. He was part of rebuilding the Rockets defense, had a big influence on how Clint Capella developed as a player. And it's something that can definitely rub off on guys like Lowry and Wendell Carter Jr. and perhaps even Chandler Hutchinson as they continue to develop their skills, especially from the defensive end of the court, because that's his specialty. He spent time also as an assistant with the Brooklyn Nets and Washington Wizards. He was a first-round draft pick, actually, in 1996 and played for the Vancouver Grizzlies at the time. Boston Celtics, Toronto Raptors, Denver Nuggets, and he averaged about 5 points a game and played 137 career games. Also spent some time overseas. He is the second addition to the Bulls coaching staff so far this season, and the team also added Nets assistant coach Chris Fleming just a few weeks back. So what do you think of Roy Rogers?
I really like the moves that Jim Boylan is making because they're out of the box. You know, he's bringing in coaches that he wants personally as opposed to guys that the Bulls front office imposes on him who usually would have some sort of tie to the team. Because let's be honest, many of us in Bulls Nation have seen them do that for many years now. But I also like the fact that both of these coaches come from winning organizations, you know, meaning Roy Rogers and Chris Fleming. And to speak of Chris Fleming first, you talk about the Nets who made strides last season, making the playoffs after quite a few years of being a horrible team trying to recover from that Boston trade where Danny Ainge just completely fleeced them. But you look at the team now and you see a number of promising players like D'Angelo Russell, who blossomed into an all-star this year. Jared Allen looks like he'll become one of the better bigs in the league soon if he already isn't. Karis LeVert can ball. Spencer Dinwiddie got paid due to his development, you know, and Chris Fleming was there for all of it. So I'm sure he played a role in those young guys' progression. And when you talk about Roy Rogers from Houston, I mean, Pat Bev just gave his stamp of approval for him with one of his latest tweets. And if a veteran player like Pat Bev shows you some love as a coach, it's definitely a good sign, especially given the type of player that Pat Bev is, because I think he's kind of similar to Jimmy in regards to how Butler was calling out Fred Hoiberg for not coaching the team hard enough, you know, when he was here. Now, I don't necessarily know if Pat Bev would do it publicly the way Jimmy did, but I highly doubt that he would show him some love publicly if he didn't think highly of him in terms of coaching. So, I mean, I'm just pretty excited to see the impact that these new coaches will have on our young guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, I just think it's a new direction. You know, we've had kind of this fill of old guys that played on the Bulls championship teams like, you know, Randy Brown and Pete Myers and guys like that. And I think it's time to kind of clean house because we don't play the style of ball that those guys played in.
Exactly.
It's something totally different. And, you know, we were kind of locked in that for a while. So, yeah, it's an interesting hire. I'm glad that they did it. It sounds like Houston is going to be kind of a barn fire. And, boy, it's interesting to see how fast they blew this thing up, or they want to blow this thing up.
Yeah, in Houston, they're trading away everyone, but they can keep CP3. Like, no way, keep your guy. Definitely don't need him in Chicago, man.
Yeah. Now let's talk about that just for a quick sec,
bro.
Yeah, before we go to break, let's talk about this. So CP3, that trade, what did they want? They wanted Lowry,
Marketing, and Chris Dunn. Like I said, they have Chris Dunn all day, but Lowry, and then
we got to eat $40 million on top of it.
And stop. And that's why when I first saw that video, man, I hit you up the same night. And sent it to you like, this can't be real. And your response, it made sense. It was true. They couldn't do anything till July 1st regardless, right? But they still could, there's still a way that they could have found to pull off this stupid trade. And that's the only reason that it had my blood rushing. Because
I'll tell you this. I don't think any of that was real because I only saw that one guy talking about it. That one guy sitting in his car talking about it. You didn't see
On Smash? You didn't see the On Smash?
Yeah, I saw that. But I don't believe it, man. It's fake news. I don't believe it.
They had a verified account. So, I mean, hey.
Well, that don't mean you can't tell. Yeah, there's plenty of verified accounts that talk like an idiot.
I mean, but we're talking about idiots and guard packs. But I don't know, man. Yeah. I don't know. Not to necessarily knock them like that, but come on, man. Given the moves that they've made in the past, I think this one would have definitely taken the cake. I'm gonna roll with you. Maybe it was fake news, but man, did it get me going.
Yeah. So that was interesting. All right, we're going to take our first break of the show, and when we come back, we're going to talk draft, first and second round, right after this. Hey, most of you guys are getting the show on Apple Podcasts, also known as iTunes, but if you don't have the Bulls Podcast on your sub list yet, just go to bullspodcast.com/Apple, and it will forward you right to our iTunes listing. If you are subscribed, we would appreciate a review since it does help out with the ratings. You can give us a 5-star, 4-star, or even 1-star. But hey, man, be honest. Tell us what you like, what you don't like about the show, and help bring new listeners to the Bulls Podcast. Again, that link is bullspodcast.com/Apple to get the show on iTunes. So let's talk NBA draft. There's really not much to report in terms of who the Bulls might draft with the number 7 pick. The rumors have been flying that they are already dead set on North Carolina's Kobe White. Following suit with the promise to the draft that they made last year with Chandler Hutchinson, it looks like Kobe White will be the guy to bring it in. Unless, of course, there's a miracle and Jarrett Culver falls to number 7 for some reason. What's your take on Kobe White? Let's just say the cards landed that way.
Oh, man. All right. So me personally,
Yeah.
I'm not too high on Kobe White because I really don't think he fits with our team. If you ask me, I think his play style is a lot like Zach LaVine's in terms of mentality on offense. He's a score-first guy who loves to push the ball, and while he can pass, it's not really his strong suit. So, when you look at his assist-to-turnover ratio at North Carolina, it was 4 assists to 2.7 turnovers per game. And I just don't think that's strong enough to be an effective distributor in an offense that already has multiple scoring threats outside of the point guard position. And having him and Zach in the same backcourt would just be tragic for our other guys, man, like Otto, Laurie, and Wendell. And while I think he probably would try to distribute the ball given the Bulls' lack of needing another scorer in the starting lineup, but I still don't think it would work out because he's not a natural point guard that creates for others. And I would absolutely hate to see him try to learn the position on a job because I just foresee it being an absolute failure. So instead of drafting him to play the point position, if that's the case, I'd much rather them try and Levine that point guard and just taking DeAndre Hunter or Cam Reddish or even Jarrett Culver to play the 2, or rather slide Otto down to the 2 and have one of those guys play the 3. If one of those guys are there, we can grab them because in that case, I just don't see the difference. Levine could learn to play the point too then, and I've said it before. I don't think they should take a guy just for positional need. The Bulls aren't good enough to do that yet, and not that any team should, but they really shouldn't. So to me, I think the smartest move would be to stick to the best player available rule with this one. And I just don't think that's Kobe White at 7.
Okay. Now, there is a trade scenario that was put out there. What do you think of this particular trade? We get rid of the number 7 pick plus Chris Dunn, and we trade it to Phoenix to just jump up one notch and get to the number 6 pick.
With hopes of grabbing Garland.
Well, yeah.
Or Culver or somebody.
Or, DeAndre Hunter or somebody like that.
Oh.
So we would get rid of Dunn and the number 7 pick just to move up one higher so we could get somebody on the board.
See, I don't necessarily think I want to do that. Just because, if we could get Garland, but my thing is there's been rumors that, because of the ties that he has to LeBron James, meaning Darius Garland, that the Lakers, they're strong suitors for taking him at the 4 spot. And if Garland is gone at the 4 draft position, then I think the rest of the guys, I think that we could potentially get many guys like DeAndre Hunter, Jarrett Culver, or even Cam Reddish. So I wouldn't necessarily want to give up Chris Dunn plus R7 because, if we could say for this, if we could potentially grab, say, DeAndre Hunter or even a Jarrett Culver, and say we then next year I put Chris Dunn in the backup spot and start Ryan Arcidiacono. And the only reason I say this is because Ryan Arcidiacono's assist to turnover ratio was one of the best in the league last year. Plus, dude, I think he actually has a better spot up shooting potential than Chris Dunn by far. And he doesn't make many mistakes. And having him in the starting lineup with Zach LaVine, Otto, Laurie, and Wendell, I think that he be the perfect fit with them given what we have. If we aren't able to get anybody else at the point guard position, meaning if we can't get a Pat Bev or whoever else, in free agency as a point guard, I definitely think that it would be better to have Ryan Arcidiacono on the starting lineup and then put Chris Dunn in the backup spot and really let him do his thing. Because if you look at the stats last year, when Zach LaVine wasn't on the court with Chris Dunn, he was a much more productive player in terms of scoring. He got to the rim a lot more. Plus, I felt like, he really did his thing out there when he didn't have the pressure of Zach LaVine in the backcourt with him. So I think if you take Chris Dunn and put him in that backup role, if he's willing to lose his ego and all of that and take the role as a sixth man, I think it would really bode well for, reviving his career. What do you think?
Let's put our owner's cap on for a minute, okay? And think of this long game. If we know a guy like Pat Bev or Marcus Morris or any of those other guys are going to come to play for the Bulls, if we got a good line on it with their agents and everything else, which they do, I know you can't sign anything until July 1st, but you're telling me they're not talking to guys? Bull. Come on. They're not having dinners with coaches and everything else. Give me a break.
Yeah, you mean as far as them grabbing another point guard in free agency?
That's what I'm saying. So if we're already in these talks to get these free agent point guards, why do we even need Chris Dunn on the roster? He's good for Phoenix because he's still on his rookie deal.
I feel you on that. But all right, even with the Pat Bev thing, because I think he's probably the one that I expect most for us, like being able to get him in free agency. I think he's the most likely that we would receive in free agency. But I was listening to a podcast, what was it, like earlier today, as a matter of fact, where the guy was from Bulls Outsiders, Matt Pack, where he was saying he think that it could be a thing where Pat Bev is just trying to gain leverage from the Clippers, with these tweets and all of this. Right, exactly. So what if that works? What if it works, whereas the Clippers do give him the money that he's asking for because they want to keep his services? Like I said earlier, I really don't think that we'll be able to pry Malcolm Brogdon away from the Bucks. And that Lonzo Ball trade, while I definitely don't like it, I think the Bulls are really intrigued by it. But who's to say the Lakers want to make that move too? And outside of those guys, I mean, who else are you looking at?
You never know, man. I'm looking at this Kyrie thing going on, and I'm
stop.
No, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm looking at it going, Kyrie's going to be odd man out here, right? It's down to like when Bosh and Wade and LeBron settled on Miami because it was almost going to be Chicago, right?
Wait, are you implying that you think we have a chance to get Kyrie?
I'm not saying we don't have a chance. I mean,
I feel you. I mean, but listen, I really don't.
You never know.
Chances of winning.
It shocked me it shocked the hell out of me when we signed Pau Gasol. It shocked the hell out of me when we signed Dwayne Wade. It shocked me when we signed Rondo. Right?
Yeah, no, they're not the caliber of Kyrie. And I mean, Dwayne Wade, he was at the end of his career, and the same with Paul Gasol. While he was still a nice player, I mean, he was fading out of his prime. And plus, that team, then we were actually contenders. So I understood why Pau Gasol came to the Bulls. I understood that move. But us right now, Kyrie coming to the Bulls right now, I think he wants to go to a team that has championship potential. And we just aren't there yet.
I got it, but I'm not an owner, and those guys got a lot more money than I do.
True. Hey, me either.
So okay. So that's the scenario that was out there. And there's also trades to get done to Phoenix in other different ways to get a pick swap and all kinds of other stuff. And so now let's talk about the second round of the draft. And I'm going to give you Bulls fans out there a homework assignment. There are guys that I want you to research and check out on YouTube, and I put it in the show notes, so you can go to bullspodcast.com and click in the episode number, which this one's 36, and you can see links to everything there. The second round is very interesting because then you get to sort of window shop for what you think the ultimate Bulls bench would include, right? Because the second round, you're probably not going to find starters out there, but you're going to find some really good core guys. And there's time and time again of guys who were picked in the second round who went on to be all-stars. And I'm not saying that any of these guys are, but it's interesting. So we have the number 38 pick, which is really not that bad. And hopefully we're not going to have one of these weird Jordan Bell repeats and just deal it out for cash considerations, because I think in the second round, there's really a lot of guys that we could use that are really good. They've actually had a number of kind of relatively anonymous players come in and work out with the Bulls, guys that would fall in line around that number 38 pick that we'd have in the second round. I have much more fun looking at these guys than I do the first round picks because, like I said, it's window shopping. So let's talk about some of these picks. I narrowed it down. What I did, Wyse, is I went full geek on this whole thing. I made a spreadsheet. I copied their whole stats. I did filters. I was doing all these crazy things with Excel. And I found 5 guys that I think are the kinds of the cream of the crop in terms of Bulls guys. So The first guy is Juwan Morgan, and he's from Indiana. He's 6'8", 232-pound, 4-year senior player, and he averaged 15.5 points, 8.2 rebounds, and 2 assists. And he shot it all on 55.8% field goal percentage. He does have an issue shooting threes because he's just 29.5% in three-point shooting. In many ways, he's kind of like PJ Tucker of the Houston Rockets. That's the one he's been most liked to or most attributed to be like. Wyse, any feeling on Juwan Morgan at all? Did you check out his video, and what did you think?
The little bit that I saw from Juwan Morgan, I definitely liked pretty much a lot of what he did, man. Like, he's a pretty big guy, being 6'8", 232, because when I look at him, I see him as more so playing the 3/4, maybe even 5 in small ball, and I really liked his leaping ability. I thought that he was a very hard dunker. Like, every time he dunked it, he pretty much went up with 2 hands. That showed me that he's a very ferocious dunker on offense. And I even saw him chip in a nice number of blocks as well. So, I mean, he just seems like he has a pretty decent all-around game. And like I said, I like the fact that he looks to be pretty quick on his feet, given the fact that he's a pretty big guy. So I think he'd be one of those combo fours that we could use. So I wouldn't necessarily be mad at, if they gave him a nice look.
Right. So next on the list is Jalen McDaniels. He's from San Diego State. He is a 6'10", 195 forward. In his last season in college, he averaged nearly 16 points a game, 8.3 rebounds, 2.1 assists. And overall, he shot 46.4 from field goal and 32% from three-point range. He lives above the rim. He reminds me of an early Taj Gibson, maybe like Taj's senior year at USC. He's got the size and skill set to play multiple positions at the next level. In order to actually excel in the NBA, he's going to have to bulk up. He's going to have to work out with Lowry for a little bit and get some of that long, lean muscle on him to improve his defense. He's got to actually work really hard at that because San Diego State was not exactly a defensive school, and he's got to learn how to consistently knock down jumpers. So he is expected to be drafted either in the late first round or actually the early second round of the 2019 NBA draft. So Jalen McDaniels, he's actually on our radar.
Very, very nice. So you say you see Taj Gibson in him?
Kind of, yeah.
I'm not mad at that comparison, but when I look at him play, given his 6'10" slender frame and the way that he gets up, like you said, he's an above the rim player. He's also a really nice shot blocker from what I can see. And I love his energy. I love his energy on the floor. He ran the floor like a gazelle, man. So when I see him, I kind of see a little bit of Mitchell Robinson in him, actually. And Mitchell Robinson played super, super well for the New York Knicks just this season. And really what I think that this dude would bring to the Bulls is, like I mentioned before, a floor runner, which we definitely need because our pace was horrible. It was absolutely horrible this season. I think we were at the bottom of the league in pace. And he gives us a high flyer, a guy who can, come off of screens and catch lobs and, just get down there and get gritty with the big guys in the low post for boards or whatnot. So he was one of the ones that you picked that I really liked. I'm really fond of Jalen McDaniels.
Good. All right. Next is Jalen Newell. He is a guard from Washington. He's kind of a tall guard. It's 6'4", 200 pounds. And last year, he actually averaged 16.2 points per game, 5.3 rebounds, 3.1 assists, and he had 50.2% at field goal, 77.9% free throw, and 44% from the three. He is the Pac-12 Player of the Year. This guy is a sleeper. He's going to be a star in the NBA. NBADraft.net actually projects him as the 10th pick in the second round, so they're saying he's going to go to number 40. Heading to the Sacramento Kings, and NBADraftRoom.com actually has him going to the Hawks at number 43 overall. So we have the 38th pick. If we want this guy, we could get him. What do you think about Jalen Nowell?
I mean, in Jalen Nowell, I think he's one of those guys that does everything good, but, nothing great. Like, if you ask me, he kind of reminds me of Denzel Valentine. Like, I'm sorry. I know that isn't like, a very sexy comparison. But, I mean, when I look at him, he has a very nice shooting stroke like Denzel Valentine does. He is a pretty decent rebounder at his size, the same way that Denzel Valentine was at Michigan State. He can distribute the ball a bit. He looks like he's one of those combo guards / forwards. And, he's a pretty nice just shooter overall, but when I look at him, I don't see him he's not very athletic, but he knows how to get to his positions and gets his shots off. So while I compare him to Denzel Valentine, hopefully he may just be a better version, but that's kind of how I see him.
All right. Now let's get into the top two here. These are kind of been counting upward in terms of the value of these guys. And the next one, these next two could actually go either way. And if the Bulls actually snared either one of these two guys, I would be over the moon excited about this. Mm-hmm. So the first guy is Dino Radonjic. And if you're looking for a Luka Doncic high energy game style clone, this is your guy. He's actually one of Luka's best friends. And back when in 2016, remember when Oklahoma City went over to Spain to scrimmage the Real Madrid team and lost to the European team? This was Dino's coming out game. He really went off. He is 6'8", 225 pounds, originally from Serbia and plays in the Spanish league. But the way he plays, this might be the next Tony Kukoc in terms of the Bulls acquisitions. He's way better than Nico Mirotic. Don't even get that Nico thing in your head from being in the Spanish league. These European pros have made some really big strides in the NBA, and this could be another Doncic or Jokic trendsetter. He did actually just a couple days ago list his draft status as a withdrawal from early entry into the draft. So the rule is he's actually got 10 days prior to the draft to actually declare for the draft since he's an international player. He did actually, even though he withdrew, maybe he's looking for a good team, maybe somebody that he wants to be with. Actually, the other day on Instagram, he did work out with the Bulls, and he did do a shout out to the Bulls and said, "Thank you, Chicago Bulls. It was a big honor and a privilege. Man, this feels unreal." Could the Bulls have convinced Dino to come to the Windy City? I've gone back to watch clips from this guy playing like 3 or 4 years ago, and he still plays lights out then. He started as a pro when he was 16 in Europe. He's got a lot of NBA potential. What do you think of Dino Radonjic?
Yo, the Doncic in his name is very fitting. Well, Bulls Nation, y'all got to go and check this kid out. Like, when Marcus sent me the link to some of his scouting videos, like, I was like, for this guy to be projected to be a second round pick, I mean, it's pretty astonishing to me because, I mean, while he's not Luka Doncic, he definitely fits the mold of a Luka Doncic-esque type of player. Like he definitely is one of those guys who has a very nice shooting stroke. He's like 6'8" with a crazy handle. You know, his handling is very nice. And I like the fact that he's played 4 years professionally already over there in Europe. You know, and plus, like, he just looks like one of those guys that has a knack for the game. You know, he seems like he has a very high IQ in terms of where to be on the floor, where he wants to pick his shots, what he wants to do out there with the ball, you know. And, you know, I'm pretty sure that I didn't see much of it in the clips that I saw, but from what Marcus tells me, there's a ton more of tape on this kid. So I'm definitely gonna, you know, just go check this guy out a little bit more. But I'm willing to bet, given how his play style seems to be, that he's a pretty nice, spicy passer as well. So I really, really like this dude, and I'm going to give him a much more of a look when I, you know, continue to look at some of these other players. But I definitely like him as a prospect for us.
Yeah, there's a clip out there, actually a full game where he dropped 37 on some team. So he's definitely worth checking out. And now, Wyse, it's time for my top pick, number 38 to the Bulls. I'm hoping goes to draft Dylan Windler. He's a small forward from Belmont College. This is a pure knockdown, drag-out shooter that we need on the Chicago Bulls. He's a true sleeper in this draft, though his stock is rising. He's 6'8", 200 pounds. He can shoot and score from anywhere on the court. He is the perfect backup to Otto Porter Jr. or Chandler Hutchinson. And this guy's going to be a starter in this league within the next 2 or 3 years. Last year, he averaged 21.3 points a game, 10.3 rebounds, and nearly 2 assists a game. His percentages of shooting are obscene. 54% field goal overall, 43% from three, and almost 85% from the free throw line. There is a distinct possibility that Windler is actually still going to go in the first round. He's going to be a model of efficiency in the NBA, and any team would be lucky to get him in the second round. I mean, if he fell to us and we would get him, this guy would change the bench overnight. This is everything that we thought Jimmer Fredette was going to be, and all these other 3-point guys that we get over here that you know, we assume is going to be the man. I think this guy would be the man. He's already a popular guy in the NBA draft world. By the time he's finished his 6-trip workout stint that he's doing for the NBA right now, he will have worked out for 10 different teams. He's made stops in Indiana, Utah, Cleveland, Brooklyn, Philly, and he's still got Boston, Portland, San Antonio, OKC, and Golden State to go. That means he may even go the first round as far as lower pick teams. So one look at his shooting numbers in college, and you'll understand why this guy is the high-level shooter that we need. He's been consistent for the last 3 years putting up these numbers, and he put an exclamation point on his college career by shooting 43% from deep with 7 attempts per game during the 2018-2019 season. That's his calling card, and he showed off crazy range and shot diversity in college, and I'm hoping it translates over into a Chicago Bulls uniform. What do you think?
Yeah, like, you can't deny it. When I watched the tape on this dude, I mean, it clearly pops off of the screen that he's a sharpshooter and a shooter from very, very deep, because it looks like he's at least 3 to 5 feet from behind the line. You know, so he's one of those guys that can pull up from the logo on you. You know, and that's really the main thing that I noticed from this dude. But also looking at his numbers with the 10.3 rebounds per game, that's insane for a small forward. You know, so that's definitely impressive if you ask me. And even a 54% field goal shooting percentage, that's super efficient. So, I mean, there's not much to dislike about this guy. But if anything, I mean, and I know that this may not be popular, but yo, Doug McDermott put up the same numbers.
Yeah.
Doug McDermott put up the same numbers at Creighton. You know, he's their all-time scoring leader, and he was a sharpshooter there as well. Now, I mean, hopefully this guy isn't a Dougie McBuckets, but a lot of people had high praise for him coming out of Creighton as well. And I'm not saying that he is Dougie, but I'm just saying I see some similarities there. But, you never know. And while you're high on him, you know, I don't know. I'm kind of in between. Like, he's one of those guys that I want to wait and see what he does when he actually does get in the league. And that's why my favorite is Dino. But,
yeah,
I feel you.
Well, if either one of these two guys is on the board at number 38, these are the two that I got my eye on. And it'll be interesting who the Bulls actually take. And I've got the stats on everybody, so we got just 2 weeks away until the NBA draft. So we are going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about some free agent rumors from around the league right after this. Hey, everybody, remember, we are a new show, and we do need your support in social media. We made it really simple to find us with some special redirect links. You can find us at Bulls Podcast on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram, and go to bullspodcast.com/Facebook to get tied into our Facebook group. And if you'd like to subscribe to the show, we are on Apple Podcasts at bullspodcast.com/Apple, on Stitcher, bullspodcast.com/Stitcher, and on Spotify at bullspodcast.com/Spotify. Hey folks, before we go, remember you can follow Wyse Black on his social links on Twitter and Instagram at radical_creator. You can also find him on YouTube. Just search for Wyse Black. That's WYSE Black. You can find me on social on Twitter and Instagram at Marcus Couch. Remember, everything show related you can find at Bulls Podcast. Remember to check out the compilation website, which I'm going to be working on this weekend a little bit more because, believe it or not, Wyse, there are like 5 or 6 brand new Bulls podcasts that are out there. Yeah, they just started, man. They just started up. There's one called The 3 Alphas. There's Rebuild a Bull that actually asked if we wanted to be on that show and give our plan to rebuild the Bulls. So, yeah, there's a lot more Bulls podcasts. So maybe we inspired some guys, some fans out there
clearly
to get on it. Because, there was just the main guys when we started. There was a couple of new ones, Bulls Gold.
It was only like C-Ray Fred at, his the Bullseye podcast, Locked On Bulls. Yeah, Doug and what's his name? Mark.
Yep.
Bulls HQ. And I think that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, hey, I love it, though. C-Ray,
I'm telling you,
let's go.
By the time the season starts, I bet there's going to be 20 different Bulls podcasts out there. 20.
That is crazy, man.
Yeah. But just remember, there's only one that has bullspodcast.com as their domain. And that's where you're going to find all the links that we mentioned in this show. Wyse, we got 2 weeks left till the draft. What are you going to do with yourself till then?
Whew, I don't know, man. I'm just sitting back, just hoping and praying that they make the right decision, man, and not take Kobe White. Please do not take Kobe White. Like, just, you know what? I already explained why. But nah, hey, it was my pleasure doing this podcast with you, brother. I really, really enjoyed myself as always. So I hope you guys out there in Bulls Nation enjoyed it too. And then just continue to mess with us, continue to come back because we love doing this show for you guys. So peace, love.
Yeah, we do have less than 2 weeks till that June 20th, 2019 draft. We may squeeze in a show right before it or right after it. We haven't decided quite yet what we're going to do. We're just kind of in the land of speculation right now in terms of what's going on in the Bulls fandom. But until next time, thank you for listening, everyone. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls, baby.
Hey, Bulls fans. This is your Bulls championship announcer, Ray Clay, saying so long, everybody. Go Bulls.